This is Valerio Viccei. Once Italy's most wanted terrorist, he evolved into the mastermind behind Britain's biggest bank heist, stealing over £60 million. He was caught not by force, but by his own ego. Even in prison, he lived like royalty, all while plotting his next move with the mafia. Until the day it all came crashing down, this is the story of Valerio Viccei, the playboy who robbed London. January 22nd, 1955. Ascoli Piceno, Italy. Valerio Viccei enters the world into a family of law and order. His father, a respected libel lawyer. His mother, a boutique owner with taste for the finer things. His brother follows the family tradition into law. But Valerio has other plans. By 16, he's already a thief. Not stealing candy or bicycles like other rebellious teens. Valerio thinks bigger. He enrolls at university in Rome to study philosophy, but sitting in classrooms isn't enough for him. His energy is too wild. The 1970s. Italy burns with political violence. Left-wing terrorists clash with right-wing extremists. Universities become battlegrounds of ideology. And Valerio Viccei finds his group among the neo-fascists, pulled in by the strong influence of Gianni Nardi, a terrorist leader who believes in starting a revolution through violence. At 17, Valerio makes headlines, not for academic achievement or sporting prowess. He blows up a local power station. It illuminates the path his life will take. Destruction, chaos, headlines. He joins Fronte della Gioventù, the youth group of Italy's far-right movement. They paint swastikas on public buildings, spreading hate across Italian cities. But for Valerio, politics is just the start. His real lessons come through bombs and bullets. Through the 1970s and early 80s, his name becomes linked with fear. Bombings, shootings. His list of crimes keeps growing, and soon he's one of the most wanted men in Italy. The police give him a nickname that fits him perfectly, the Wolf. But Valerio's dreams go beyond politics and revolution. He wants something more thrilling than ideas. He wants the good life. Fast cars, designer clothes, champagne-fueled parties, beautiful women draped on his arm like expensive accessories. For Valerio Viccei, crime isn't just rebellion, it's funding for the lifestyle he believes he deserves. He models himself on Al Pacino's Scarface, watching the film a reported 58 times. Tony Montana's rise and fall becomes his Bible, his roadmap to criminal stardom. The violence, the excess, the inevitable downfall. Valerio absorbs it all, but believes he can write a different ending. His accessories tell the story. A gold keyring shaped like a shotgun. A £700 Louis Vuitton briefcase with the combination 357. After the point, 357 Magnum revolver. Every detail calculated to project an image of dangerous sophistication. By the 1980s, Italy has become too small for Valerio's ambitions. With over 50 armed robberies on his resume, he's burned too many bridges, made too many enemies. Time for a change of scenery. He chooses London. St John's Wood, one of London's most exclusive neighbourhoods. Valerio rents an upscale flat, the kind of address that opens doors and raises eyebrows in equal measure. His broken English doesn't inhibit his confidence. If anything, the accent adds to his exotic appeal. The Ferrari is his signature, speeding through London streets like a bold statement. He dates a series of glamorous blondes, each one another prize in his collection. He's living like a king in exile, but kings need money to keep their throne. So he returns to what he knows best, robbing banks. But this isn't the crude smash and grab of his Italian days. London wants sophistication. The high point comes when he aims for an impossible target. Viccei planned the biggest heist of his career, one that would change the course of his entire life. The Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Centre. Every great heist needed an inside man, someone with access, someone with weaknesses that could be exploited. Valerio found his mark in Parvez Latif, managing director of the Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Centre. Latif lived a double life, suits and respectability by day, cocaine and shadows by night. The drug habit created debts. The debts created desperation. And desperation created opportunity for men like Valerio Viccei. The wolf tightened his grip slowly, methodically. Money lent became money owed. Favours granted became favours demanded. Until Latif found himself trapped in a web he couldn't escape. Compromised, addicted, owned. Under the crushing weight of that pressure, Latif cracked. The weakness that made him vulnerable now made him useful. The planning began. The Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Centre, where London's elite stored their most precious possessions. Royalty, celebrities, millionaires, even other criminals. Everyone trusted their valuables to this fortress of discretion and security. But every fortress had a weakness, and Valerio Viccei had found his. July 1987, a quiet summer day in Knightsbridge. Two well-dressed men approached the safe deposit centre, professional, polite, unremarkable. They requested to rent a safety deposit box, a routine transaction just like any other. The manager smiled, welcoming. The guards barely glanced up from their newspapers. The men were escorted into the vault, through layer after layer of security, into the very heart of London's treasure chamber. Then everything changed. In an instant, guns appeared. The manager and guards found themselves staring down barrels of cold steel. No panic, no screams, just the calm, professional efficiency of men who had done this before. The back door opened, more figures entered, at least 8, possibly more. The exact number remained unclear, each one dressed as a security guard, armed with tools and walkie-talkies. They moved with the precision of a surgical team. They hung a sign on the front door. Centre temporarily closed, maintenance in progress. Inside the vault, silence settled like smoke. No alarms sounded, no panic buttons were pressed. Just the cold, methodical rhythm of professionals at work. With ruthless efficiency, the team moved from box to box, each lock surrendered to their expertise. Behind each steel door lay a fortune, cash stacked in quiet bundles, heirloom jewellery that shimmered under fluorescent lights, rare watches that ticked in 6-figure rhythms, gold bars heavy with promise, and documents worth more than money. They didn't just steal, they harvested. Box after box fell to their tools, 114 in total. Each one a treasure chest, each one pushing the tally into the stratosphere. They worked in perfect silence, communicating through gestures and glances. 2 hours, that's all it took to rewrite the history of British crime. The loot was staggering. Experts estimated it exceeded 40 to 60 million pounds, making it the biggest robbery in British history. But the real value remained a mystery, guarded by the same silence and discretion that once protected the vault itself. More than 30 key holders never came forward. Some contents were too valuable to admit, others too shameful to explain. By the time they walked out, calm, unhurried, the robbers vanished into London's tangled maze of streets. Behind them, they left a scene of chaos and confusion. The audacity of their actions stunned both law enforcement and the public. 1 hour after the crew slipped away, the shift changed. New staff arrived at the Knightsbridge Safe Deposit Centre to discover a living nightmare. The tied-up manager and guards, the broken vault, and the empty boxes looked like they were shouting without making a sound. The police were alerted, the investigation began, but the wolf was already celebrating. Back in his Hampstead flat, Valerio Viccei lived like an emperor. The haul was so immense, so outrageous, that he filled his bathtub with banknotes. Diamonds and rubies littered the floor like a carpet of stars. One diamond alone, worth over £4 million, could have had a mansion, a yacht, the kind of future most people only dream about. This was what he had worked for. But money came easy. What he really wanted was the spotlight. The police looked very carefully at everything. In the vault they found something invaluable. A bloody fingerprint, clear as a signature on a confession. The print was traced back to Valerio Viccei. The wolf's identity was no longer a mystery. Surveillance began immediately. On August 12, 1987, coordinated raids swept across London and surrounding areas. Several accomplices were caught in the net, 9 suspects in total, 8 men, 4 of them Italian, and 1 woman. They were convicted and sentenced. Police recovered an enormous amount of jewellery, cash and silver from the heist. But the wolf was gone. Valerio Viccei had fled to Latin America, vanishing into a continent of chaos and opportunity. He carried with him a fortune, his cut of the £60 million robbery. In the end, only around £10 million was ever recovered. The rest disappeared into the black depths of offshore accounts, shell companies, and criminal networks. It was as if the money had never existed at all. Valerio should have disappeared too. He should have retired quietly, lived modestly, let the world forget. But that was never his style. He really liked fancy things. That love made him do bad stuff, and in the end, it got him into big trouble. Valerio Viccei couldn't let go of his past. He decided to retrieve a Ferrari Testarossa he had left behind before fleeing to Latin America. Not just any sports car, but a masterpiece of Italian engineering, a machine that screamed for attention wherever it went. And then, in a moment of breathtaking arrogance, he made a decision that stunned even his closest allies. He would return to England. Plan was simple on paper: have the Ferrari shipped to South America, continue living the dream, just with his favourite toy beside him. But what Viccei didn't know was that the police were still watching. They had never stopped. When word reached Scotland Yard that the wolf was returning to his old hunting ground, investigators could barely believe it.
And why the hell is he showing up?
Why would Viccei come back? But the report was credible. A customs official had flagged the vehicle export request. The name was real. Valerio Viccei was back in London. Detectives, who had been quietly tracking leads and maintaining pressure for months, moved fast. They prepared their trap. October 12th, 1987. They waited until the right moment. Viccei had been out. He was going for a ride, probably smiling as he listened to the car's loud, cool sound one last time. As he returned to White's hotel, cocky enough to return to the same place he'd frequented before the heist. Officers blocked the road, out of nowhere, like a scene straight out of a crime thriller. One of them smashed through the windscreen of the Ferrari with batons and riot shields, dragging Viccei out of it, and in seconds he was on the tarmac, face down, arms twisted behind his back. The arrest was cinematic in its drama, the wolf being caged, but as they say, a man like that doesn't stop. He keeps going until he physically can't. Once captured, Valerio Viccei didn't behave like a man caught. He behaved like a man stepping into the spotlight. He played the role he was born to perform. The master villain. Sunglasses almost permanently in place. That trademark grin never left his face. He was laughing and telling stories, like at one of his big, fun parties with lots of drinks. The newspapers devoured every detail: his cunning, his charm, his unshakable confidence. He didn't just become notorious, he became famous. British newspapers couldn't stop talking about his wild story. The Italian playboy who robbed a vault in broad daylight. And Viccei? He loved it. At his trial, he delivered the line that would come to define his entire twisted philosophy.
Maybe I'm a romantic lunatic, but money was the last thing on my mind.
It was pure Viccei. The crime had never been about greed. It was about the thrill, the challenge, the spectacle, the story. He was sentenced to 22 years, sent to Parkhurst Prison on the Isle of Wight, one of Britain's most secure facilities. Even behind bars, the wolf remained a legend. He walked proudly in the prison yard wearing a t-shirt that said, "I love Knightsbridge," emblazoned around a clown's face with dollar signs for eyes. The wolf was locked up, but he never gave up. November 1992. Under the Treaty of Strasbourg, Viccei was extradited to Italy to finish his sentence in a jail near Pescara. On the Adriatic coast, the wolf was coming home. But this wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the final act. Viccei declared himself a changed man. Now he was trying to be good, using the same clever tricks he once used to plan robberies. He even claimed to have knowledge about the infamous death of Roberto Calvi, God's banker, found hanging under Blackfriars Bridge in London. 1982. It was a bluff, but it didn't matter. Within 3 years, Viccei was living like no prisoner should, working at a publishing office by day, strolling beachside cafes, returning to his apartment in the evenings, and reporting back to prison by 10:30 p.m. It was the most civilized imprisonment in criminal history. He lived lavishly, even behind bars. He boasted about his exploits to anyone who would listen. In a British TV documentary, he charmed viewers with tales of his high-speed lifestyle and long list of lovers, including his rumoured affair with Lady Bienvenida Buck, the glamorous Spanish mistress who had accompanied him through London's elite nightclubs during his reign as the Wolf. But prison, even comfortable prison, was never going to contain a man like Valerio Viccei. The Wolf still had one last run in him. Behind bars, Valerio Viccei formed a friendship that would define his final chapter. Antonio Malatesta, a member of the Puglia Mafia, known as the United Sacred Crown. This was no petty gang. This was an organisation built on kidnapping, armed robbery, and international smuggling. Exactly the kind of operation that appealed to the Wolf's sensibilities. Malatesta got special treatment because he gave the police information about other criminals, trading secrets for reduced sentences and near total freedom of movement. He could come and go almost at will, maintaining the illusion of imprisonment while continuing to operate on the outside. The partnership was inevitable. Two career criminals. Together they began planning their next operation. Italian law enforcement received an anonymous tip. Viccei and Malatesta were plotting something big. The possible targets, either a high-value armoured bank van or the kidnapping of a wealthy industrial heir in northern Italy. The Wolf was returning to form. The semi-freedom of his privileged Italian imprisonment wasn't enough. He needed the thrill. He needed the hunt. Viccei was out on temporary day release, part of a programme for well-behaved inmates. He stood beside a stolen black Lancia Thema, parked on a dirt road near Ascoli Piceno, not far from where his story had begun decades earlier. In one hand he held a mask, in the other, a .357 Magnum revolver, the weapon that matched the code to his Louis Vuitton briefcase, the gun that had become his signature. Beside him, Malatesta checked his gear. They were waiting to execute their plan, whatever score they had chosen from their menu of crime. But everything changed at 10:45 a.m. A routine traffic patrol rolled by. A parked car on a remote road, two men lingering beside it. The officers grew suspicious. The Lancia was flagged as stolen. Officer Enzo Baldini stepped from the patrol car. His partner covered him. Standard procedure. When he asked for identification, everything broke apart. Malatesta ran. The mafia man chose escape, but not Viccei. He stayed. He drew his Magnum. What followed unfolded in seconds that felt like hours. Baldini saw the danger and rushed in. They fought hard. In the chaos, both were shot. Viccei's first round missed, the bullet disappearing into the countryside. Then 3 more shots fired in rapid succession. One struck Baldini in the leg, but the officer wasn't finished. Baldini opened fire with his submachine gun. 15 bullets tore through the air. Viccei was hit multiple times and dropped to the ground. Valerio Viccei was gone instantly. The Wolf was no more. The boy who once blew up Power Station to becoming the man who robbed £60 million and outwitted 2 countries for over a decade. A flashy reminder of what happens when you live without limits. A warning to those who think being famous means living forever.